My name is Genesis Murphy and I am 68 years old. The morning everything changed began with the small domestic rituals that have kept me stitched to the world, to taps on the kitchen barometer to check the pressure, the kettle's thin whistle, the china cup my late husband bought me in Lisbon with an invisible crack spidering up its handle. I stood at the window while the kettle simmered, watching the tangle of oaks across the street shake off the first hints of autumn. Somewhere far above those leaves a plane was lifting my son into the bright, indifferent sky. And I told myself the familiar lie all mothers tell: he'll be fine, he always is. Because he's mine. That I had walked my granddaughter to school an hour earlier. We had played our little game, where she makes me guess the day's spelling words from clues: asterisk a house for birds, asterisk nest, asterisk the opposite of loud, asterisk quiet, asterisk what you use to hold secrets, asterisk heart. She had squeezed my fingers at the crosswalk and said, "Grandma, my heart can hold so much." Like a suitcase, I kissed her forehead and promised her pancakes on Saturday. Then I watched her run through the school's red door, her ponytail slicing the air like a bright ribbon dot. By 9 o'clock I was back home, the kettle whispering, the radio murmuring the forecast. I reached for my phone out of pure habit and saw the message from my son, sent from the gate 20 minutes earlier, asterisk boarding now. Love you, Mom. See you Sunday. Asterisk he had added the little airplane emoji he always used as a joke. Ever since the day he'd confessed fear of flying and I had laughed because he hid it so well. He had learned to button his dread under a smile. He learned that from me. I set the cup down untouched and moved through the rooms of my house like a woman checking on sleeping children. The photographs were all where they should be: my son in a high school football jersey, faking a scowl; my daughter, gone these 15 years, laughing with her mouth wide open; my husband smiling with his eyes. Proof of life, proof of love, proof of a story I had managed to carry forward even as it frayed. The doorbell rang once, then a rapid second time like a heartbeat. When I opened the door, my 7-year-old granddaughter stood on the porch, her backpack unzipped and swinging like a pendulum. A strand of hair had stuck to her lip, and her eyes were too wide for the morning. "Grandma," she said, and her small hand found mine as if the space between our palms had always been a door waiting to open. "We need to go, now." I blinked at the street behind her. The school crossing guard's yellow vest flashed at the corner. Car side by, carrying other people's schedules, other people's uneventful days. "What are you talking about?" I asked, my voice calm out of practice. "The way nurses speak in emergency rooms while gloved hands move in quick, deliberate arcs." She rose on her toes, pressed her lips to my ear. Her breath smelled faintly of the mint gum I never allow before noon. "He's gone," she whispered. "We have to leave." There are words that lift you out of your body for a moment and hang you from the ceiling. To watch yourself. Asterisk he's gone, asterisk did that to me. There was no pronoun for a second, only an echo chasing itself down the corridor of my ribs. Then my mind named the ghost, my son. My boy with the airplane emoji. The rotor of the world stuttered. "How do you know that?" I asked, already reaching for my keys on the little blue plate by the door. Not because I believed her, not because I disbelieved her, but because the feeling had come, the old, unmistakable pull behind my navel that had dragged me through births and funerals. And the long desert of grief. "Move now. You can think later," I heard, she said. Like a radio that came on, her church shoes clicked on the hardwood as she followed me in. I grabbed my purse and that battered Lisbon cup because habit is a funny god. Then set the cup down again because even a funny god cannot ride with you through fear. I almost left a note on the kitchen counter but didn't know for whom. Didn't know what words could hold the weight of this sentence. Asterisk we are going. Because a child heard a ghost. Asterisk the kettle's light clicked off in the silence. We were in the car before doubt could catch up. My granddaughter buckled herself in with the quick competence of a child, used to moving between worlds. I started the engine and asked, "Where?" She stared ahead, hands folded, faced the serious mask she wears when she's drawing. "The river," she said. "If there is a place that holds the undercurrent of my life, it is the river. I learned to swim there as a girl, learned to kiss under its willow, learned to forgive myself on its muddy banks. My husband had taught our children to throw flat stones until they bounced 20 times and shattered the water into coins. I had taken my granddaughter there for picnics and for the solemn ceremony of telling secrets to the current and watching them curl away like minnows. The river, I repeated. And the word opened in front of us like a gate. The drive blurred. Traffic lights winked green when we approached, as if the world itself had chosen to cleave. My granddaughter's gaze never left the windshield. At one intersection, she said, "Turn left," and at another, "We should be quiet now." And I listened because something in her voice had the authority of weather, of an arriving storm you can smell before you see it. When the water came into view, flat pewter under a sky rubbed gray, we parked under a sycamore tree, shedding its bark like paper. The river trail shimmered with the afterglow of early dog walkers and the sugar smell of someone's discarded pastry bag. The wind pressed as steady as a hand on the crown of my head. "We'll leave the road," my granddaughter said, already slipping her hand into mine. "There's a place." We followed a footpath I had walked 100 times when the world was kinder. She led, and I followed. And with each crunch of gravel, I felt the past bending to meet us. The hospital corridor, where I learned my daughter would not wake. The courtroom, where I watched a man who had stolen our house cry because the judge was kinder than he deserved. The airport gate, where I had held my son's trembling hand when he first flew to college. Memory is a braid, and I felt it climbing my spine, tug by tug. Even as the present pulled us forward, we left the trail where the bank dipped into a polite ravine, a notch like a bite taken out of the land. My granddaughter slid down the slope on her bottom shoes, leaving twin moons in the dirt. I followed more carefully, one hand on the trunk of a tree whose initials were cut by teenagers who believed in forever. At the bottom, the air was cool and skeletal with roots. "There," she said, pointing at an old iron bench half swallowed by vines. I recognized it with a small shock. When my husband was alive, he had cleaned that bench with a wire brush and painted it green. It had been our bench. He had written our names under the seat in permanent marker, foolish and sweet. I had forgotten it existed. The sight of it flung a door open in my chest to a room I rarely entered anymore. On the bench lay a brown leather satchel. My granddaughter walked straight to it, her face unflinching. I recognized the satchel too. It belonged to my son. I did not ask her how she knew. I did not say his name. Instead, I knelt and touched the buckles the way you touch a sleeping dog, soft, careful, prepared for any wakefulness. The leather was damp with river breath. My hands remembered his childhood backpack, dinosaurs at 4, video game heroes at 10. The severe black messenger style he'd adopted at 16 when he wanted to be someone who never apologized. Inside the satchel was a single envelope. No address, just my first name and my son's handwriting that leans forward like a runner taking off. Genesis. The paper was thick, the kind that responds with a little sigh when you break its seal. I did not break it, not yet. Instead, I watched the river moving as if a huge animal were turning lazily under its skin. "You said he's gone," I said. "Does gone mean dead to you?" She shook her head so quietly the motion was more idea than action. "No, not dead, gone like a book you can't find because it fell behind the shelf. But you can still read the dust where it was." Some people will tell you children live in fantasy. In truth, they live in clarity. It is we who lacquer the world with explanations until it cannot breathe. I sat on the bench and let the envelope warm in my palm. My granddaughter stood by the armrest, eyes on the water as if waiting for a curtain to rise. "Why did we have to leave the house?" I asked. "Because it's louder there," she said. "Too many memories talking." She looked at me, and in her gaze I saw my daughter, my mother, myself, the whole line of women who have learned to listen to what the ordinary world tries to shut out. You needed to hear the quiet. A pair of geese arrowed overhead. Far downriver, a barge shifted, heavy as a thought. The envelope had started to tremble, though my hands were steady. I opened it. Inside was one page torn from a legal pad, and the first line was a wound that bled straight through me. Mom, if you're reading this, it means I did not get on that plane. I read the sentence again because words sometimes need a second trip through to prove they are not mischief. Then I read the rest, each line widening the world until I felt the bench was floating. Asterisk, I know this seems out of nowhere, but it has been nowhere for a long time, and today it became a now. I can't explain everything yet without putting people in danger. I need you to go to the old house, the one on Willow Street, the one we left when things got. Go to the attic. In the corner behind the cedar trunk there's a floorboard that creaks twice. Pull it up, take what's inside. Don't call me. Don't call anyone. And please, take her with you. She'll know which door to knock on. I love you more than the sky can carry. The breath that left me then was a body. I folded the paper with care and slid it back into the envelope. The attic, I said. Double quotes, yes. My granddaughter answered, but I had not asked her anything. You knew there would be a letter? She nodded. I heard it when he put it in the dark. Like a drop in a well, she hesitated. There are men on the river today who think nobody sees them. But the ducks do. And the ducks told me, if the story I am telling you sounds impossible, remember the tiny impossible things you accept each day. The way your heart keeps its own electric rhythm. The way your skin makes a map of your years. The way the moon lifts and lowers oceans without touching them. I did not doubt her. I said, then we'll go. We climbed back up the ravine. And with every step the world pinned itself tighter to reality as if reluctant to let us float. On the trail again, I felt eyes and turned. Two men in caps and ordinary jackets were standing where the path bent, looking at the bench. Then at us. Their eyes were the color of coins rubbed thin. They did not smile. My granddaughter's grip tightened. The small bones of her hand speaking to mine through skin. Do not run. We walked to the car measured as a prayer dot in the driver's seat. I put the key in the ignition and did not turn it. Willow Street, I said. They already know we'll go there, she answered. We should go a different way and arrive from the back. And we shouldn't hear the radio. I turned the key. The engine caught. The radio came alive with an advertisement for a mattress that breathes like a person in sleep. I silenced it. The men from the path were walking now, unhurried, disproportionately interested in the sky. They would take their time because true hunters like to test the edge of fear. I backed out and did not look at them again. The route she gave me stitched the city together in a pattern I would not have guessed. Alleys where someone had chalked hopscotch numbers that climbed to infinity. Side streets veined with roots, a set of back-to-back turns that felt like crossing ourselves. When we reached Willow Street at last, the old house rose up like a memory told in the wrong language, mine, but strange. The paint had peeled to the color of old teeth. The porch sagged like a tired mouth. Someone had removed the brass numbers from the door, as if an address could be erased from the past. I parked 2 blocks away and we walked the rest, our feet careful on the broken sidewalk. She guided us to the back fence where a plank had loosened with time. We slipped through. And the yard welcomed us with the dusty smell of asters and the high whine of a solitary cicada. The back door still had the scratch I'd once mistaken for a crack of lightning. A mark our dog had made the day thunder taught him humility. Keys? She whispered. I did not have keys, but I did have a pin at my collar holding the cardigan closed. Old school mothers learn the arts the world forgot to teach. I looked around because it felt required, then knelt and worked the pin. The lock cooperated like a person happy for company. The door sighed open inside. The house was the ghost of our lives, lighter patches on walls where frames had hung. The shadow of a sofa on the floor. The smell of dust that has decided it prefers to be sediment rather than air. Every small sound inverted itself. The click of my heels became an alarm, the hush of the curtains. A conspiracy. We moved together up the staircase, my hand sliding the banister that had once held crayons. Peanut butter, tears. The attic door stuck, then gave. My granddaughter ducked under my arm and went straight to the cedar trunk. As if it had been burning a little invisible fire all these years. I pressed a palm to the floor and felt at the loose board. That registered its complaint into careful creaks. I pried it up. Beneath lay a canvas pouch tied with a plain white shoelace, a memory of childhood running fast. I pulled it free and untied it. Inside were 3 things: an old thumb drive taped with black electrical tape, a photograph so faded the faces were almost weather, and a small red notebook rubber banded closed. The photograph showed my son at 10, my daughter at 12, my husband with his arm around them. They stood in front of the river bench, their shadows reaching for the water. Behind them, almost an afterthought, was a man in a cap, eyes the color of rubbed coins. I had never seen him before, or I had seen him and never known I should remember. I slipped the photograph into my purse. The thumb drive went into the inside pocket with the zipper I had always trusted. I held the red notebook in my hands and felt the tremor begin again in the paper, as if the words inside were pacing, caged and certain of what they had to say. Below us, a floorboard sighed. My granddaughter lifted her chin, listening. "They're here," she said softly. I did not move the way prey moves. I moved the way a woman who has carried whole years on her back moves, careful to conserve breath, careful to measure distance, careful to keep a hand free. I slid the notebook into my bag and took my granddaughter's hand. "Alternate door?" I asked, and the question fell between us like an old coin we both recognized. She nodded toward the far corner where the eaves drooped low. "There's a hatch to the roof. You used to keep it painted shut." The paint peeled, we crossed the attic, climbed onto a storage chest, and pushed the hatch. It lifted with a reluctant crackle. Sun spilled in, blinding. I boosted her up and followed, my knees lodging brief complaints I ignored. We emerged into the bright, thin air above the neighborhood, a city of shingles and chimneys and forgotten toys that had flown too high. The wind whipped my hair into my mouth, tasting of tar and last night's rain. We crawled along the ridge toward the neighbor's roof, where a line of grapevine trellis offered a ladder down into a yard conscientious with bird feeders. Behind us, the attic hatch lifted and a cap appeared, then a pair of eyes like coins. The man didn't speak. He didn't need to. His presence shifted the balance of the day, and my body understood it the way you understand a bridge's sway under your tires. We slid onto the trellis, down to the fence, over it. My skirt caught on a nail and tore with a sound that felt offensive in its loudness. My granddaughter landed like a cat, then turned and offered me her hands. A reversal that made my throat hurt. We cut through 2 yards and emerged into an alley perfumed with old apples and exhaust. At the alley's end, a truck idled. Its driver leaned against the door with one foot resting on the bumper, reading a newspaper as if newspapers still held the world in their thin authority. He glanced up, saw us, and without changing expression tossed the paper into the passenger seat and opened the back door. Inside, to my astonishment and instantaneous relief, was the quilt I had made the winter after my husband died, a blue and white thing that looked like a field glazed with frost. "How?" I began. My granddaughter climbed in as if she had been doing it her whole life. "This is the door," she said. "Get in, Grandma." I hesitated for a heartbeat that might have cost us everything, then climbed in after her. The driver closed the door and slid into his seat. The truck rolled forward and the day pivoted on its hidden hinge, swinging us toward an answer I had not known I wanted. We rumbled out of the alley and into the wash of traffic. My granddaughter settled against me, all that brittle bravery turning, at last, to the soft weight of a child. I kissed the top of her head and felt the delicate map of her skull, the geography of a future I did not intend to surrender. "Where are we going?" I asked the driver. He checked the mirror, eyes flicking to the 2 men who had spilled into the street behind us, their caps small commas in the sentence of the day. He did not answer. He turned on the radio instead, and a violin filled the cab, high and bright and full of the kind of sorrow that keeps you alive. "You can trust him," my granddaughter whispered. "He was there when I was little and sick, in the room when Mommy prayed." Her voice thinned on the last word, and I felt another old room open, the hospital. The window that watched over us like an angel too tired for wings. The driver took a right, then another, stitching us away from the old house. I held my bag closed with my arm, feeling the rectangular heartbeat of the notebook through the leather. I would open it soon. I would read what my son had set down with whatever courage men manufacture when no one is watching. But in that moment, with the violin lifting and the city shape-shifting outside the windows, what I knew was simple and whole. The story had turned, and I had turned with it. The quiet had spoken. The river had given up a secret, and the part of me that had slept ever since my daughter's last breath had taken its First clean inhalation. We drove toward the edge of the city where old factories sit like cows chewing stubbornly on the cud of history. A warehouse door rolled up when we approached. As if we were a password someone remembered just in time. The truck slid inside, the door rattled down behind us. And the sound was so decisive it felt like a new spine collapsing into place. The truck idled. The driver killed the engine and turned around. He was not young, not old, one of those men whose age lives in the set of their shoulders rather than the skin. His eyes were kind in a way that didn't announce itself as kindness. He looked not at me first but at my granddaughter. "You did good," he said quietly. She nodded and then, only then, allowed herself to cry. Her tears were small and private, the kind you feel more than see. I held her, the red notebook between us like a hot coal wrapped in cloth. "Genesis Murphy," the man said to me, as if saying my name might anchor the tumbling room. "You don't know me. You knew my brother." A long time ago, the river moved inside my head. A face surfaced, younger, skinnier, laughing through a split lip after a brawl on our block. A boy who fixed my bike with a nail and a prayer. "Eamon," I guessed, and the man's mouth twitched. "Close," he said. "I'm Sheen." He waited for my mind to climb where it needed to climb. When it arrived, he gestured toward a door set into the warehouse wall. A plain thing painted the color of dust. "Your son left words," he said. "You brought them. Good, we're going to need all of them." I followed Sheen through the door, the concrete cool underfoot, the warehouse air carrying that dry, faintly sweet smell of cardboard and old grain. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed in their metal mouths, spilling a clean, almost hospital brightness over a room arranged with the practical neatness of someone who has survived chaos and learned to court its opposite. A steel table stood in the center, scratches cross-hatching its surface like a map of small departures. Against the far wall, shelves rose in tidy ranks, labeled bins, coiled cables. A row of thermoses like silver soldiers at parade rest. My granddaughter slipped her fingers into mine again and brought me toward the table, as if we were arriving at a chapel. Sheen waited, hands braced on the edge as if steadying the day so it wouldn't tilt us off. He nodded at my bag. I took out the red notebook and set it between us. It looked almost embarrassed by its own importance. Sheen didn't reach for it. He looked at my granddaughter. "Can you listen?" he asked. She wiped her face with the heel of her hand and nodded. "I'm listening, and if there's too much noise, I'll find the quiet," she said simply, Sheen's mouth pressed down and up. An expression that didn't quite reach smile but wasn't far from it. "Good," he said and turned to me. "Open it, Mrs. Murphy." I slipped the band off and let it thumb against my wrist. A small sound like a guitar string plucked somewhere far away. The first page was dated 2 months ago. My son's handwriting again, leaning, certain in the way certainty sometimes is only practice. Asterisk, if you ever have to read this, Mom, it means I couldn't find light enough to tell you in person. I'm sorry for that. I'm not sorry for what I did to get us here. You taught me there's a kind of sorry that wastes air and a kind that plants trees. I'm trying to plant trees. Asterisk, I felt my throat tighten with that ridiculous maternal pride that arrives at the worst possible times. As if the heart insists on multitasking even during an earthquake. Asterisk, get started with a plane. Because so many bad stories do. Last spring, the company booked me to KYV for a friendship etc. project that sounded like a toothless slogan until we landed and it grew teeth. I'm not writing a manifesto here. I'm writing a map. Follow the marks, asterisk, asterisk, a asterisk, asterisk, the man in seat to foresee who pretended to snore. He will show up again. Coin eyes, hat low. He's dangerous because he believes he isn't. People who think they are only background become the worst kind of foreground. Asterisk, asterisk, b. Asterisk. Asterisk, the girl who spilled orange soda on her passport and cried until the flight attendant brought towels. She hummed to herself a lullaby I know I've heard before. One your mother used to sing when the radio went to static. If you hear that tune, stop. Someone is warning you. Asterisk, asterisk, c. Asterisk, asterisk, the numbers they used as code aren't numbers. They're latitudes cut in half. If you put them back together, you get a line that runs straight through the river district here at home. Our river. That's why the bench matters. That's why I left the satchel there. Rivers carry secrets because they know how to keep moving. I glanced up at Sheen. His eyes were on the notebook, not greedy, not afraid. My granddaughter closed hers, head tilted, as if listening to a seashell. I kept reading. I said yes to a dinner I should have refused. The host wore old money like a cologne, and his tie had tiny golden anchors that made me think of Dad at the marina. I was naive enough to be sentimental in the wrong room. At the end of the night, they slid a thumb drive toward me and said, "If you care about your city, you'll help us shepherd this across the Atlantic." It's mostly nothing, mostly nothing is how fire starts. I took it. I told myself I'd deliver it to the right people before the wrong people noticed. I told myself a lot of things. Then to foresee reappeared at baggage claim like a shadow handed down. And I understood I had already been chosen for a team I didn't sign up to play for. There's a warehouse if Sheen is there. You're where you need to be. He's Eamon's brother. Eamon saved my life once when I was 10. I figure that buys me one I owe you across decades. He'll argue, but he'll honor it. In the attic of the Willow Street house there's a pouch with this notebook and a drive they want. Keep the notebook. Give the drive to Sheen. Do not try to open it. It's baited. Sheen lifted his head like a dog who has caught a smell only he can name. I slid the taped drive across the table. He didn't touch it. Not yet. Keep going, he said. You'll need to bring her. The notebook continued. No names because my son knows the world reads even what you mean to keep. She hears the current. I didn't understand that until the day she told me the ducks knew my meeting was a trap. My granddaughter gave a small, sleepy nod. A child taking attendance in her own mysterious classroom. I didn't get on the plane this morning because they would have closed the trap in the sky. Instead, I bought a ticket under another name to gates over and walked out the service corridor. With a man who thinks he's invisible. His name changes like a bus route. He won't harm you if he thinks you can't see him. Don't look him in the eyes. He has coin eyes and the hat. The river men, I whispered. Sheen's shoulders tightened. Details from the park followed you, he said. We shook them for now, but the shake never lasts. Finish the page, if all the rest of this fails. The last paragraph read, there's something only you can do. Mom, it's the part I kept trying not to write because it asks you to go back to the hardest room. The judge who handled the Harkins case, the one who cried. When he got to keep our house, he wasn't crying for us. He was crying because someone held a string around his throat. In the red notebook you're holding, there's an address where that string ties off. Cut it. That man will finally tell the truth. The truth unlocks the rest of these doors. Tell her I love her to the edges and back. Tell her I kept her mother's laugh in my pocket like a talisman all these years. Tell her I'll come when the quiet tells me it's time. Until then, find the judge. Cut the string. The page ended. I turned to the next blank. The rest of the notebook was empty save for a faint impression where my son had pressed his pen. Too hard, a ghost of words I couldn't read. I closed it. The room seemed brighter and poorer for the closing. Sheen finally took the taped drive and slipped it into a small pouch like a man holstering a snake. That drive, he said, belongs to men who believe cities are chessboards you can play across oceans. I've spent a decade prying pawns off sidewalks. Your boy's brave. Brave is different from safe. He tipped his head at the shelves. I can keep this off the board for a day or two. But the judge of your son says that's the string. We pull it now. My granddaughter exhaled through her nose, a slow, soft flute note. He will be thirsty, she said. Who? I asked. The judge, she said. He hasn't drunk water in the sun for a long time. He's been drinking shadows. Sheen didn't smile this time. She's right, he said. He lives in a cul-de-sac where the sprinklers sing at 6. And the neighbors know the shape of each other's dogs. He pretends that's enough safety to erase what he did. It isn't. Then let's go, I said. And my voice sounded to my own ears like something I recognized from long ago. A tone I used in a hospital at 3 a.m. The register women inherit when they decide. Sheen fetched a canvas jacket for me from a hook and a baseball cap for my granddaughter. That read *Mars feed and grain * in cracked yellow letters. He checked his watch, though I don't think he needed to. Some men keep time the way old sailors keep stars. He went to a metal cabinet in the corner and opened it, and for a slivered, ugly moment I expected guns. What he lifted out instead was a roll of duct tape, a pair of wire cutters, and a coil of fluorescent orange twine strings, he said, as if answering a question I hadn't asked. You cut them with the right tools. We left the warehouse through a door that smelled of rain. The truck was exchanged for a sedan so ordinary it might have apologized for existing. We buckled in. Sheen drove without commentary. The city unfolding in a grammar of traffic lights and pharmacy signs and the theatrics of morning. Shoppers dragging hope in wheeled baskets. My granddaughter leaned her head against the window, eyes open, watching the world with that luminous stillness. Some children are born wearing like an invisible coat. We're not going to knock, Sheen said finally as we turned into a neighborhood that looked printed rather than built. All the houses had the same architectural smile, the same circular windows like polite eyes, the same mailboxes married to the same posts. Lawns measured themselves by ruler. Knocking is for courtesies we don't owe anymore. We stopped 3 houses before the judge's. It wore a wreath, though it wasn't any season that asked for one, which told me the people inside had decided to live in a holiday that never stopped. There were garden statues, the kind with stone children pouring stone water into a stone bird bath, and a flag that didn't show the country's colors exactly but suggested them. Safety cosplaying as pride. Genesis, Sheen said, and I turned. When you see him, don't say his name first. Make him say yours. Why? Because men like him only tell the truth when reminded that they are small enough to address you, he said. And because your name is a beginning. I almost laughed at that, a bright, astonished sound that leaked out anyway. My mother said the same. She was right, he answered, and parked. We didn't hurry. We moved through the sunlight like people out for a condolence visit, which in a way we were. The walk up the path felt like a tunnel, the hedges too carefully clipped, the blossoms too obedient. My granddaughter brushed the hedge as if greeting an old cat. Her eyes tracked something I couldn't see, or someone. When we reached the door, Sheen stepped aside and let me stand in front. I pressed the bell. Inside, chimes rang, not 1 note, but 5, cascading like a miniature waterfall trying too hard. Through the glass I watched a shadow approach, hesitate, retreat, then gather itself and return. The door opened. He was smaller than I remembered, though memory puffs people up like bread in a warm room. His hair had thinned to a polite dust. His eyes were wet in the way of a man who has practiced pity in the mirror until he could apply it without dripping. He opened his mouth, closed it, then looked down as if the threshold had asked him a rude question. Genesis, I said softly, and watched relief flicker across his face like a weak pulse that knows it must pretend strength. I'm glad you remember. The judge's hand trembled on the doorknob. His lips parted, ready with excuses, but when his eyes met mine, something in him faltered. I saw the string my son had written about, not literal, but coiled around him like smoke, tightening every time he tried to speak. You know why I'm here, I said. He swallowed. Genesis. My name came out as confession, as surrender. My granddaughter stepped forward, her small voice clear. Cut the string, Judge. Tell the truth. Sheen moved past us, swift and efficient. The wire cutters in his hand found the lockbox tucked behind a cabinet. Inside, ledgers, names, payments, all the evidence of years bound to silence. The judge sagged against the wall, lighter without his shadow. I'll testify, he whispered. I should have, long ago. The string was cut. We left before sirens could come. The morning sun seemed sharper, as though the city itself had exhaled. My granddaughter slipped her hand into mine, her grip steady. Daddy will come back, she said softly. The quiet promised, and in that moment, standing on a suburban sidewalk where roses bloomed too bright, I believed her. Because the tide of my life had turned. My son was still out there, brave and alive. The men with coin eyes would follow, but we had truth now, and truth is heavier than fear. I was Genesis Murphy. And from that day forward, nothing in our family would ever be the same.